Hello, guys. Our story today is one of a kind, has a lot of events, it has a lot of lessons. It's about three young kids who became young adults. Their whole life was going around bad parenting, uh, bad decisions, which ended up, of course, with the crime. Shall we start the story? Let's start the story. Hello, guys, with a new story. So, our story happened recently, probably 8 years ago, and the story happened in Jordan. There was a hard-working father who works in construction, and he had an older son. His son name is Saeed, and the dad was very hardworking. And foreign parents, I don't know if you ever met somebody, they put heavy value on finishing school. So they take their kids to schools. They actually beat them up if they didn't do well, if they didn't study. And it's the usual, not just as immigrants, even in their own motherlands. Everybody is valuing schooling and degrees so high. Because if you don't have a degree, you don't get a job. If you don't have a job, you don't get a good life. And if you don't have a good life, you can't help your parents when they are older. So you invest in your kids when they're young. If you need to beat them up so they perform better in school, you have to do it. Like, monitoring the kids is a big thing back in that culture. So this small family, this kid Saeed was the only one among his brothers and sisters he didn't have the brain for school. His dad beat him up so hard to the point that his mom had to do something about it. He thought the harder he beat him, the smarter he's gonna get. But the mom told him, you have to give up. The kid is 14 years old. His brain is not for schooling. Teach him something. Take him to work with you, or teach him something else. His brain is not for school. That's it. God blessed us with how our other kids are doing better in school, but this kid just gave up on him. Anyway, the dad thought about the matter and how to deal with his kid, and he thought he's gonna bring trouble to the house, so he has to make him work. So he took him to do construction with him, to the construction site with him, carry blocks and do concrete and whatever, carry logs, and he did whatever his dad told him to do. 6 months passed, 5 months passed, I think, and the kid started to have blisters in his hands. His back started hurting because he's still a kid. His body is not designed to carry all this heavy load of bricks and concrete bags, and cement bags and concrete bags too, yeah. And the mom told her kid to stay home, just to rest, and told the dad his body hurts, his back hurts, let him rest at home a little bit. And a week passed and two, and the dad started nagging on the kid. When are you going to go back to work? You have to go back to work. So he took him back to work, and then the mom didn't know what to do with the dad. He was really stubborn, and it's going to hurt the kid. So the mom went to the dad's best friend and told him to talk to the dad into finding another job for her kid, Saeed, because this job is not good for him at all. It's like gonna have him have some physical disabilities with time in his back. So the friend spoke to the dad and told him, why don't you find him another job, and convince him to find him another job. And the dad said, yeah, I'll find him another job. In the meanwhile, the mom told the kid that he has to go and look for another job, and the kid couldn't find any other job. So the mom told him, stay at home and rest again, and we will tell your dad that you are working, you found another job. And this way you will be going to school, go back to school, do your best, and your body wouldn't get hurt, and your dad wouldn't be angry. And the dad was so happy when he heard the news that his son found another job. And he would start asking about the wages, how much he's making, and he has to see his money. So the mom starts paying the kid to show his dad that he's making money. And then the mom starts taking the money from the dad wallet behind his back and give it to her son to show the dad that he's being paid. And then the mom starts borrowing from that friend of her husband just to give the dad the money and share the income. I mean, share the house income. With time, a year passed, 2 years passed. Now the kid is 17 years old, and he couldn't handle seeing his mom doing all this effort and suffering just to save him from working construction work. So he went outside looking for a job, but he couldn't. So he started robbing people, robbing cars, breaking into homes. He was really good at it. He became a little criminal, and he was telling his parents that he's working. And the parents weren't good parenting. They didn't ask him where he worked, didn't go and check where he's working. They were happy with how much money he was making. Sometimes he would spend the night outside and would tell them, oh, my job sent me there, my job sent me there. And he had enough money to the point that he was able to rent a small room in an apartment. It wasn't that good, but it was a room in a big apartment building. And he stayed weeks and weeks away from his family, claiming he's working. He sent some money to his mom here and there. He would go and visit them here and there. And during that time, he met another kid. His name is Sharif. They were the same age, and that kid was a thief too. So they were doing plotting criminal actions here and there and robbing people. They start becoming really professional and breaking into homes and stealing a lot of devices and big stuff. They even start to collaborate to distract convenience store employees, and one would rob the store and the other one would distract the employee. So that's how they lived, just in robbing people, doing criminal actions, and they never got caught because of how good they became from practicing the theft. Practicing stealing from people and from stores and from everybody, breaking into cars, breaking into homes, breaking into stores, gas stations, you name it. And the parents still don't have any clue what their son is doing, and they never questioned it. A year passed, 2 years passed. Now they have so much money to the point that they got a better place and in an apartment building. And one day Saeed was looking through the window and he called Sharif. He said, did you notice this girl? She's so pretty. So this girl across the apartment building, it was another apartment building. And probably I'm going to post pictures this time to show you how the houses are being designed there and how people live. The apartment buildings are close to each other. You could jump over the roof. People usually don't have a closed roof because in that culture people can have sleepovers on the top of the house. They could raise chickens. They could have their washer and dryer and hang their clothes to dry. They could use that space in anything. Or pigeons, they could raise pigeons. So this girl was looking at them and flirting, like the way she was talking and waving to them here and there. And they were liking it. She thought they liked her and it fulfilled her and satisfied her feelings of being desired by those guys. So one of the two kids, Sharif and Saeed, he said, I'm gonna go and check out on this girl and see what her deal is. She seems to be liking us. I'm gonna go first. So the story of this girl, that she was living with her older dying mom. The girl is like 20 years old. Saeed and Sharif were now 21, 22. So they all were the same age. And she was really pretty. And very simple girl. So, and she was taking care of her mom. She was really good with her mom, but she wasn't a good girl in general, and now you will know why. So Saeed tried to jump over the apartment, over the rooftop of the apartment building to reach that girl apartment, and he reached the apartment, her apartment, and she actually was asleep on the roof of that apartment building, as I told you, because of the heat, or they want to watch the stars, and her mom was next to her. So he woke her up and he started talking to her, and she started smiling like she knows the guy and he's just a stranger. So she went down to her apartment with him. She took him down, and her mom was sleeping on the roof of the apartment building at the top. And she did the deed with him. They just met and she did the deed with him. And in that culture, you know, the Arabic culture, they are so conservative. They're very religious. They're very protective of their girls. They don't do these things. So she has to hide, and they have to come at night so nobody see them. And it has, so the Saeed went back to his friend, Sharif, and told him, how did it go? He said, well, I got her. She was really cute. And Sharif said, what? It's my turn. I'm going to go now. So Sharif did the same thing that Saeed did, and he jumped over the apartment building, from his apartment building, climbed up and jumped over the wall and went downstairs to the girl apartment. Of course, they have numbers, and he knew which apartment it is. And he met her there, and she did it again with Sharif too. And they kept doing these adventures, red night adventures, every night almost, behind her mom back. And they noticed she cannot leave the apartment. She cannot come to their apartment. And she explained to them that her brother and his wife live next to them, and they will see her, so she cannot leave the building. Otherwise, they will know where she's going. So they kept sneaking over the rooftop of the apartment building every day, and it continued to happen for like 4 or 5 months, until suddenly the girl disappeared. They couldn't find her anymore. They found out that her mom passed away, and her brother took her to live with him, because girls don't live alone in that culture. They can't just rent an apartment and move out. They have to live with the family until they get married. So they start seeing her in the convenience store downstairs, and they would see her walk in and out with her brother family, or see her through the windows. She would wave sometimes, but she couldn't talk to them or do anything like before, like flirt through the window, because her sister-in-law is there. The kids are there. Her brother is there. So Saeed says, what are we going to do about this? And Sharif said, you know what? I could ask her for marriage, and ask her brother for marriage, and I could bring her to my house, and she can live with us. And Saeed could not believe his ears. Are you serious? Yeah, we can do that. You think he will approve it? And he said, let's see and ask. And Saeed, of course, and Sharif were so like neck deep into drugs and alcohol and bad lifestyle. Their entire source of income was robbing people and theft and stealing. So they weren't really good kids. They weren't really good guys for any girl to marry. So when Sharif went and want to ask her brother hand for marriage, he went to the convenience store old guy downstairs that he owned the store. And they used even to rob him, but he didn't know that he was missing food here and there, or some candy here and there. And Sharif and Saeed were behind that, the missing incidents, the missing candy incidents. So Sharif went to him and he told him, I want to get married. I don't have a family. Could you please go and represent me? Because when you go and ask girl for her hand for marriage, you have to have your mom and dad and sometimes your older aunt or uncle. So the bigger the family come in, the better for the girl and bigger chances for her to approve you. That's how it is being done. So the older man in the store says, yeah, of course, this is a good thing. Why not? I'm going to help you and walk with you like your father. And that's it. Sharif and this older guy walked to Salma house. Her name is Salma. They walked to her brother's house and asked her hand for marriage, and her brother didn't even ask about Sharif and where he came from or where he makes his money. He didn't care. He told him, well, you have to pay her dowry. And it was a lot of money for a guy who doesn't have a job. But Sharif contributed and Saeed contributed to this dowry, and he got married. So they got married within a week, and she moved in with Sharif and her brother and his family, thinking that she married Sharif only. But when she walked in that apartment that day, she married to both of them actually. So whatever happens between husband and wife, it happened between. So it was like a devil triangle, as the report called it. So this devil triangle lived a very sinful life for months and months. And of course, her brother's apartment was across the street from her apartment. So the way Sharif justified Saeed living with them, he said, he's my cousin and he doesn't have a place to stay and he's visiting us. He's my business partner and he's staying with me in the extra room in the apartment. And that's how it was, and nobody suspected anything and nobody thought anything about anything. But of course, as a family, the brother and his wife would invite Salma and Sharif to have lunch and dinners, and of course Saeed used to join them here and there. And the brother wife, like the sister-in-law of Salma, noticed that Salma's eyes, you know, when newly wedding people, they have lovey-dovey feelings and it shows in their face and in their eyes. And she saw exact same look in Salma's eyes for her husband Sharif, exact same looks for Sharif, her husband, is exact same looks and demeanor and attitude toward Sharif, which was puzzling for her. She felt something was going on, but her husband didn't feel anything. But she stayed silent. She said, what could that be? Like, she just got married and she's happily married, and she just dismissed the idea. And then a week passed, and suddenly she was standing on the window washing her dishes, and she caught Salma in the kitchen sink, the same, I think she was probably doing dishes or washing vegetables, and she saw not Sharif hugging her from the back, but it was Saeed, who's supposed to be the cousin of Sharif. And she freaked out. She rubbed even her eyes. She could not believe what's going on. She didn't scream. She didn't say anything. She just kept watching. And to make it weirder, Sharif passed by her husband by them and he acted like nothing was going on. Oh my God. She almost collapsed, the sister-in-law. So immediately, she didn't even wait. She called Salma and she told her, I need you to help me in the kitchen. I need something. And Salma, I think she asked her to bring extra eggs with her because she needed some eggs. And of course she lied. She didn't need anything, but she couldn't wait. She wanted to talk to her and ask her what's going on. As soon as Salma walked to her sister-in-law apartment and her brother apartment, the sister-in-law told her, I noticed something. What's going on between you and Saeed? I saw you through the kitchen window, that he was hugging you from behind. And Salma immediately denied it. She told her, impossible. What are you talking about? That was Sharif, my husband. You must be tired or your eyes are getting bad due to old age. And she started laughing. And the sister-in-law was sure of what she saw. She wasn't hallucinating. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't do. She knows what she saw, but because it's a big issue, the brother could kill his sister for it, because this is considered a really massive taboo in that culture. She could get killed under the umbrella of honor killing, just because she shouldn't do it, and if somebody saw them or found out, it could be a massive scandal for the whole family. So she stayed silent, and she thought it's just one incident and the devil was there or whatever is going on, and she just dismissed the idea, thinking, yeah, maybe I didn't see well. It was that big of a drama for her that she denied it. Her brain could not believe that Selma's doing that. Why would she do that? Like, why would the husband be okay with it? It just was too much for her brain to handle it. She dismissed it. She didn't tell her husband. Until one day, all of them were, of course, she got involved in all the drugs. Selma got involved in all the drugs they were doing, or all the alcohol they were drinking. And a lot of times they would put the music really loud and high in the house and dance all night long, until one day Salma was wearing a nightgown, and she was dancing with both Saeed and Samir. Guess who saw them this time, because they attracted attention? Again, the sister-in-law. She saw her dancing wearing a nightgown in the front of Samir. And this time she wanted to talk, and but she also again dismissed it out of fear. And she thought she might just threaten Selma and tell her to stop whatever is going on in that apartment. She should stop it. Anyway, long story short, they lived like that for a long time, and they wanted to make more money, because they spent so much money in Salma's diary. So they thought about robbing the older guy that helped them, that went with the Sharif to ask Salma for her hand for marriage. For some reason, they thought he's loaded. He's an older guy. He's like 60-something. He has even a grandchild living with him in his house. And he has a wife that was older like him. They didn't know he was just making a little bit of money, that he has these groceries there, but he didn't have that much money. He does own a small convenient store for the neighborhood that provided milk and vegetables and whatever, but he wasn't loaded with money. Anyway, they started to develop a relationship with them, just to say thank you after after he went with them and helped them getting married to Salma. They tried to gain his trust, so they invited him and his wife to their house for lunch and for some dinners here and there. And the plan was that Sharif and Salma cook lunch or dinner and get them to eat undistracted, while Saeed is gonna go and rob them, like look in their house, jump over the roof, and then sneak into the apartment and look here and there for whatever money they are saving in their house, money or anything valuable or gold. And when Sharif did that, he jumped over the house, and he was surprised with an 11-year-old or 9-year-old kid sleeping in the house. Of course, when they invited the older guy and his wife, everybody came with them, so they thought the house is empty. But when Sharif walked there, that kid had a flu that day, so they wouldn't take him out of respect to spread his germs and viruses on their neighbors. They left him sleep at home. So when Sharif walked in, he noticed that kid is asleep there. And with the noise, with him opening the door, the kid woke up. Sharif didn't know what to do, and not Sharif, sorry, it's Saeed. Didn't know what to do, and he just strangled the kid. He just put his hands around his neck, pressed so hard to the point that the kid just died, and he put him back on his bed, covered him with the blanket, and looked everywhere in the house. The house, of course, was humble. I mean, the apartment was really humble. There was nothing valuable. He couldn't find any gold for the old lady. He couldn't find any stack of money from what they thought that the guy was storing in the house from the sales of his vegetables and merchants. Nothing at all. And he went back to the apartment. I mean, he left the apartment, and once they left, they went back to their home and finished lunch and dinner. Sharif called Saeed and told him, come over. They left. And they were so excited, they thought he will come back with a bag of money or gold, and he came back empty-handed. And he told them, what's going on? He said, I couldn't find anything, but this is what happened. And he told them about the kid and that he killed him and he covered him. And they were, oh my God, what did you do? Why did you do that? He said, what am I going to do? He's going to call us out, and he knows us because the kid is old enough to talk. He knows them. They are their neighbors. And of course, the old lady and the old man, they didn't know any of this. They thought their grandchild is just asleep because he's sick. Next day in the morning, they thought he's still asleep. But when noon came in, the grandma went to check on him and wake him up so he can eat, because it's too long to be asleep that long. And she was surprised that the kid is not waking up. So she started screaming and called her husband from his shop. He closed his shop and took him immediately to the hospital. They don't call ambulance there most of the time. They just take the injured. They thought he's just fainted, or he didn't think that is a serious matter. When they arrived to the hospital, the medical staff immediately told them the kid is dead because he looked blue. And it was so obvious. They told him, what's going on? They said he just wouldn't wake up. He was sick. So they thought he has some respiratory issues and he died because of that. So of course they had to do an autopsy and make sure what was the cause of death, and it's going to take a couple days. The grandma and the grandpa, of course, it was a massive bad news for them. And the kid is dead. So after a week or two, things calmed down. The devil triangle again is still insisting on robbing this poor family. So they invited the older guy and his wife again and everybody to their house for lunch or dinner, just to show them they are still all in with them and give them condolences or whatever, like cheer them up. That's the right word, yeah, to cheer them up. But their intentions weren't just to cheer them up. Of course, Selma was with them all the time cooking, and her husband Sharif was there again. Saeed went downstairs, tried to break into the store that the convenience store the older guy owned. He wanted to break into it and steal some money from the cashier machine. And it was an old style cashier machine. Of course it was empty. The old guy wouldn't leave money there. So they were puzzled. There is no money in the house. There is no money in the machine. They found out that the guy is really poor. So whatever he made through the day, he just spent it on food and whatever they need at night. And so again, Saeed came back empty-handed, and they want to celebrate that night. And of course, with the drugs and alcohol and everything going on, they had to put the music loud. They weren't paying attention. So again, the sister-in-law, this is the third time she saw Selma in a devil triangle, sexual devil triangle, as they call it, with both guys, Sharif and Saeed. So this is with the louder music. The neighbors, of course, will notice something. She immediately ran to her husband and sat him down and told him, this is what happened first time. I know you are not gonna believe me, but please hear me out until I finish. And she was really scared because she didn't know what her husband is gonna do, but she threatened Selma. She warned her. She told her, I have seen you. She told her, I know, but Selma wouldn't stop. So she sat with her husband and told him, your sister, I think she is doing bad things with both men at the same time. So that guy living with them, he's not just a guest, he is another lover. They are having a threesome. They live together. They are being satisfying their desires, both of them at the same time, with your sister. And her brother and the brother could not believe his ears. Immediately he called his three brothers. So he had other brothers. He called them, three of them. Now there are four. All of them walked into her apartment together. They knocked the door. Of course, they opened it. She was in a nightgown dancing, and so they caught her in the deed. Sharif was there, and Saeed was there. Of course, the brother has a gun, and he killed his sister first immediately. He couldn't handle it, and because of the shock of the situation, they beat up both guys. They locked the door. They beat up both guys and told them what's going on. And of course, the crime never got solved because the police was still investigating the cause of the death of the kid. And of course, they confirmed he was got strangled to death, but they couldn't find any clues, and now everybody's dead, and nobody knew who killed the kid because the house had nothing missing. The door wasn't broken into, and it's still a mystery. Nobody knows who killed the kid, but justice was granted for him. But when Saeed lost his life, when Salma's brothers killed him and shot him in the head. Now Salma's dead, Saeed is dead, and Sharif is dead, and that's the end of our story. This is a real story. All these events really happened. And the sad thing is that Saeed, mom and dad never questioned their kid. He would be gone for months, and they wouldn't even ask him what his job was or where he works. They wouldn't even visit him, so that was bad parenting. And I'm really sad about the end, how Selma life ended. If her brother didn't give her just like that to marry, just to get rid of her to Sharif, none of this would have happened, the poor girl. So that was a bad decision from the family to give her away to marry somebody just so she's not an extra mouth to feed. So it's really a sad story, but she was an adult, she made bad choices, and that's the end of the story. Please subscribe if you are new to my channel, and like and comment if you have any comments or questions. And until our next story, love and peace your way. Bye bye.